Welcome back, brother Dennis. How are you, my friend?
Doing well. How you doing, brother?
No complaints. A lot of great stuff happening in the world of soil biology and soil structure and wonderful things going on out here. So
Excellent.
yeah, so let's dive right in. How are you? What are you up to, brother?
We're doing well. We've just planted our fields, and we planted a new crop this year, which is well, we've experimented with flowers before, but this year we're growing a diversity of flowers for a large memorial garden. There'll be more than enough flowers for all the families that we can think of. So that was pretty interesting, getting the soil down there. The family, they've stewarded the soil system for about 5 years with hugelkultur all around the barn, and they've taken it down to the big field and spread it out, and layered it, of course, and you immediately could just like feel the energy jump way up on the land. So we're really excited about all of the flowers that are going to be growing very, very soon. And we just found out about a month ago that our neighbor there, his wife transitioned over the winter, so it'll be something really cool to look down over. It's directly, I mean, when he looks out his back windows, that's what he'll see is the memorial garden. So we've been working on that, and that's pretty interesting, pretty fun.
Are you doing like symmetry with it, sacred geometry, or is it just a field?
It's just a field. We layered wood chips, diversity of wood chips down. And I think that this field has been hayed in the past, not since we've had it, but so we're not really sure. We've just been letting the land regenerate itself over the last 5 years or so, and trying to take as good care of it as we can. And this year was a really big deal to us because, I would say it's probably 3 or 4 acres. And we're probably using half of that for the garden. So that's a large garden and commitment for our family. And we're already seeing the seedlings pop, and that's pretty exciting.
Nice.
Yeah.
So is it wildflower fushes, or are you mixing some cannabis in, or?
Yeah, there's no cannabis in that field. It'll be mostly sunflowers in the center of the rows, and on the outside of the rows will be wildflowers, but between those two will be a variety of different flowers like poppies and things. It's we're hoping for lots of color and sort of like a rainbow look when you look down over the field. We want it to be many different colors sort of all streaming together. It should be pretty cool if it grows the way that we planted it.
Oh, I'm sure it will. And hopefully you'll be taking some drone footage in another couple months.
Yeah, that would be ideal. We should definitely do that. We have to do that for the cannabis gardens this year too.
Yeah, it would be nice to have a virtual tour. I mean, I was blessed to be out there on the property, not only feel the energy, but get to walk around and see, all of the wonderful things that you guys have done. So that would be interesting, or that'd be really cool to have, on one of these times that you come back, to give us a virtual tour of your the barn and the facility around it.
Yeah, that would be great. We've been doing so much work. I think we moved about 6 tractor trailer truck fulls of wood chips, and I'm not sure how much soil, but it was a lot of soil that they've cultivated over the last 5 years, and just from those 2 areas. And it's amazing how quickly these logs and wood chips and leaves, everything is turning into the richest living soil that, before all of this, I didn't know any of this was possible. I didn't know that you could have living soil and have it produce a cucumber, for example, that it's not the same thing. Or it doesn't matter what the vegetable is, but my favorite is like fruit. So we've had these fruit trees that surround the farm since before we arrived. And over the years, the boys have been trying to regenerate the soil because they were planted in gravel, basically, but around, directly where they were planted was this agway mix that's just horrendous. So we've been trying to regenerate all of that. And some of the trees are really thriving now. It seems that this year, the level of dedication to the soil systems and, the fruits, vegetables, and really the medicine, the medicine is really showing results all across our farm. So early on, we were seeing it in the microorganisms and we were seeing it in insects. And we were even seeing it in birds and other animals. But now that we're seeing this vitality or vital energy broadcasted throughout our ecosystem, and it extends beyond our farm, it's really remarkable to see. But everything, starting with the fruit trees, are just blooming this year. Might have to do a lot with all the rain that we had last year, but the thriving is just across the board. We brought a couple of geese and ducks to the farm that are new to us and our ecosystem, and the geese first day on the farm, they laid their first eggs, which was really sort of very exciting for us because the farm that we got them from, they didn't think they would lay eggs. They had them for years. But the first day they got there, they were so happy, I guess, that they just started laying eggs. And now we have a baby goose. So that's really exciting. And the whole family is, that's new for everyone. Sebastopol geese, they're pretty cool.
So it's in my experience that when an ecosystem gets restored, it does jump, just like you said. It starts with the insects and the birds pretty quickly. Then you start to see the other larger, both predators and prey, starting to mingle in. And then it just keeps spreading out beyond the areas that you have restored. And then as far as like fertility, whether it's animals or even insects, you tend to see that they sense this. They sense the ecosystem to a point where, oh, I'm home. Like I'm at the Garden of Eden. It's time for me to reproduce and provide more for this environment that I feel is safe and comfortable. This year I actually, can you knock it off? See his little face around the corner? He's looking at it.
He's hilarious.
Play. Come on. So in this year, I think I told you the story about my landlady roundupping my guys. Knock it off. So I had to go. Oh, stop it! You want a treat? Oh. So I had to, start from ground zero again. I mean, my soil was in good shape, but all the vegetation was wiped out. And so this year, or last fall, I planted a whole bunch of indigenous wildflowers and grasses and stuff. And the wet weather, they took off. I mean, my flowers are probably 6 feet tall out there, and every stalk has just 20, 30 flowers. Huge. And so I naturally let it dry out because these are indigenous plants, so I want them to get comfortable with the environment. Because I've had someone come by and say, "Why aren't you watering that?" I go, "No, I don't want to water it. I want all of those to get a seed, fall, and then rebloom in this coming fall. I want this to be a cyclical garden. I'm going to let it do its thing. I mean, and that's the only way you can really establish both the insects and the birds. And what I saw as far as insects in there in the spring was just amazing. How many different predators I found, whereas before there was no predators, no butterflies, nothing. And so those are like really good indicators. And plus the other thing too was that you did see a lot of what we call the indigenous pollinators, the bees, these little different kinds of bees that I had never seen before out here.
Yeah.
So they find it, dude. They find it when you give them the space.
That's so true. You know, I've never seen those tiny bees before, and there's so many different varieties of them. And it's sort of like a miracle how they just show up where, you know, I don't have words for it. It's so hard to even explain the evolution or the direct experience of the expansion of the ecosystem. But, you know, what you're saying is so true also in that leaving some for seed produces amazing results. I'm going to see if this extension cord is long enough. I'm going to show you one of the farms right now.
Yeah, and every generation that is gone to seed in that spot is only evolving better and better. That's beautiful, my friend.
Yeah, it's just starting. I mean, they're all like
Look at the
babies.
color.
They're babies, but soon, within a month, even less, you know, those things will be taller than I am and just booming with energy. And that's really what I was hoping to talk about today. We've had all these. It's amazing how when you have existential questions and then you spend time with spirit and God and some of these in nature, some of these existential questions are answered, but often somehow it produces more desire in that same arena, and we have more questions. So I'm finding myself looking at the energy, the vital energy, the life force energy, not just with us, but with all of the, you know, the microorganisms in the soil, with the insects in the soil across the ecosystem. And I've spent a little bit of time thinking about this. Well, a lot actually. And also part of this, I guess, would be the observation, you know, the observational aspects of where, you know, what are we looking at, but also where do we go from here? What are we seeing with the results of our alignment with nature, and what are these results producing? So, how can we best measure this vital life force energy that's produced by these plants that are alive in a living soil system, thriving in a living soil system? And, you know, I think they're, you know, measuring metabolism from, you know, across the board is a good way of measuring the life force energy, but also just observing it, having the opportunity to, you know, observe the heightened energy in a thriving ecosystem opposed to one where there really isn't any vital energy or life, for that matter, in some systems, in some farms. So I have this, I don't know where these big dreams come from, but I would like to contribute to, I guess, all of our brothers and sisters' path towards regenerating, you know, the interest and then the results in restoring our ecosystem across the world. And I feel like doing this in a way where we can immediately see results might provide me and others looking to support such a big. I was listening to a podcast today. Zach Bush. Have you ever heard of this guy? Yeah, smart guy. He's
For sure.
he was talking today about, or I was listening to one of his podcasts today about soil regeneration, and he doesn't really focus too much on that, but I like how he has this broad outlook on everything, right? He brings this whole entire experience through our need to focus here in the soil and focus here in the life. And he was even talking about our ability to now measure the metabolism within life forms, within organisms, to then measure how well is that system doing, whether it's a soil system or an aquatic system. Basically, I think what he's trying to explain is that we have the framework, and thanks to people like you have already done all of the foundational, decades of dedication in this area. You've actually opened up these portals in all these different directions where we can actually start to use what we know, exactly in ways like Bigelow Laboratories does for the oceans of the world. And I think that if we could possibly build a team and include maybe the natives across the country or even across the world, the indigenous peoples across the world in this project and maybe the project already exists where, we're working together to show these results from these experiments. And these are the observations of, the energy in these organisms and within us when we consume these things. And like when we stop consuming chemicals. So it's a big topic, but at the same time, you've simplified it in a way that you started at this like foundational level, which offers everybody this clear path. And it's amazing that you can, even in a struggling ecosystem, you can bring these practices in, and biology finds a way, and then it immediately begins to thrive, even in those stark contrasts of, even in a war-torn country, there's so many different examples of thriving biology in really, really difficult situations. So I think that we all have this really cool opportunity to honor those that came before us and sort of like steward this in a more dedicated way, at least from my family. And I think that maybe what the brothers brew and their focus in offering their soils to others is all of these things, bringing their plants and helping people build gardens and, tear out their old ones and all of it. It's been rewarding and meaningful beyond anything I could have hoped for. So it just seems like it would be entirely possible for this to be an incredible like tsunami type wave that goes across the country, and that same energy that produces those results. So, and produces those microorganisms and all of the ecosystem to express that level of energy.
So I think the way to look at it, Dennis, is that even where I am in this desert of fertilized plants and pesticides. Like they nuked all of the strawberry fields out here this spring with fungicide. Dude, it got so bad. There were days that I had shortness of breath all day. Like I could barely fucking breathe. And that was one of the reasons why we never found insects around here before. We had no biting insects, hardly any flying insects. But when I built that garden, all of a sudden they came. So we know that we can very quickly restore these types of vital launch pads. And it goes back to something that's really simple, and it's basically just plant indigenous pollinator gardens wherever. They could be on the side of the road; it doesn't matter. And understand that the insects themselves bring in the biology with them as well, both in their poop, on their fingers or their legs, wherever they've landed in the dirt. Maybe they came out of the dirt, so the biology's on their wings and on their bodies. And so they're just spreading that, and multiplying, amplifying the ability for these things to come back. Nature wants to be successful. Look, dude, if we leave a road alone and we don't touch it and don't spray any herbicides on it, friggin' grass grows right out of the middle of the friggin' highways, right? So once we stop our poisoning and stop our disrespect of the soil, she'll come back roaring, like no doubt in my mind. And so what can we do while we are on this earth and have the time is have conversations like this with everybody we know. Is that, look, it takes no effort. You literally could get a handful of seeds and just gently cultivate them, rake them into the soil, spread a little compost on top and walk away. And that'll be a flush in a matter of a month or two. And that flush will continue to expand as they go through their maturity, and then they seed, and then they drop, and then the next year it's going to get bigger. Next year it's going to be bigger. And before you know it, that now you're dealing with like a whole half acre or acre of this, indigenous like islands that other things will migrate to. I mean, dude, the birds that I've seen out here this year, I've never seen before. Like these orange ones and shit, like bright freaking yellow ones. I've been here for over 4 years, never seen them. But since that garden just exploded, I started seeing them. They started coming in and sitting on the branches and looking at me, like it's. And I think this goes back to that being connected, right?
Yeah.
So I posted a post about some really deep research on the verification that plants have more sensory perception than human beings do. And I'm talking a lot more. They can actually tell, and they have the research that this is proven. They can tell you're there. They can tell what color you're wearing. They can tell if you're sweating, if you're in fear, if you're angry. Even Dragonfly got on recently. And on some podcasts, I saw Kelly talking about like walking into your cannabis garden pissed off, and don't do it. No. Because the plants respond. And that's something, damn, I've been preaching that for years, is that your emotions are coming off of you in waves of energy. Absolutely. That will affect everything around you. So just being positive and like, I'll go out there and, after a hit of weed at night, and I'll just walk through there's a little walkway through the flowers and the plants. And that's when I see all these, diversity of different little bugs and even some like little birds that you would never have seen unless you went in there, right? Because they're like nesting on the ground or scratching the surface of the soil. Yeah. And I went so far as to grab a bamboo stick and walk out there and just see what the tilth was like, right? After the roundup, you pushed on that thing and it wouldn't go in the ground, right? And this is another thing that's a problem with these synthetic chemicals, is that they have an adverse reaction with the biogeochemistry of the soil. The actual physical components of the soil start to crust up almost instantly. So when I went in there with that stick, dude, I went down a foot with that, hardly any effort at all. And I was just, That's fantastic. That's tilth, right? And that's going to continue to expand, especially if I just let the natural cycle of this plants continue. If I just keep letting it go, don't till it, don't cut it, don't do anything. Just let it grow, the seed, fall, and regenerate the soil. That'll probably be 18 to 24 inches next year. Goes to show you, dude. It's not hard. This isn't rocket science. It's just about positive vibrations, intention, gratefulness, and then all this stuff just comes to you, and you, without knowing it, are giving that back to this plants and the surrounding ecosystem, encouraging more to come in. Like, hey, there's a party going on over there. Let's see what's going on, right?
Absolutely. It's so true. And then everything is communicating with you. It's really remarkable when you have big examples of that with nature. We've talked about a few in the past, but it's amazing when nature communicates with you, and it doesn't matter if it's a father goose or a mother duck, or if it's an eagle or whatever it is. It could be just the soil. It's amazing that they all have these different energies in motion, and I think that when we sort of allow all the bullshit to fade away, all those thoughts, those incessant things that have nothing to do with our connection to who we are, like just for a minute, we can all take a minute to do that. When we do it, though, it's so good for us, but it's something that we can see as a reflection, right? We can literally in the moment experience that expression. We can experience that stillness and that peace reflected back to us in that connection to nature. And it's a different thing every time. Sometimes it's a bumblebee that gives you 15 high fives. Sometimes it's like it's a wind that just dances around you, or a baby turtle that walks in the back door at the barn. There's so many different things that it's like spirit rewarding our contribution to that energy that you're talking about. And it's really hard to, because we don't have ways of measuring it in the foods or in the medicines yet. It's hard to really even quantify or talk about it, but when you experience the medicine, it gives you a different feeling. Or when let's say you had a whole meal, right? We ate a salad of this regenerative food that came out of one of these gardens. It's so remarkable how every layer of each of those vegetables offers us this incredible level of balance and healing that we can actually feel. This vital energy is amplified without us even intending to have that happen, all because of the nourishment of the food. But when you put it all together, also like you're saying, where you're including the intention and the energy, and you're eating the food that's imbued with it, and you're then again honoring the soil and the water that is required to nurture these medicines and foods and soil systems. Somehow all these insects and animals are rewarding us with like a nod, but in their way. And if we're just a little bit quiet, we can actually yeah.
That's the hard part, is quieting the mind, because you can walk right past that. You could have stepped right over that turtle, never noticed them, right? And so many people do, because they're living in fear. They're caught up on anxiety and oh my God, how am I going to pay the bills this month? And what if I get sick? And how am I ever going to retire? Shut up! Don't worry. Live in the moment, man. Yeah. The moment can be gone so quick. It's not funny, and so it's the mindfulness that has to change. And if you want to create that tsunami that washes across the continent, all of the continents, that's where it's going to come from, dude. It's a higher conscious, an awareness, a gratefulness, an appreciation for the fact you are fucking alive. I mean, remember, at the end of the day, the egg that was your mother's chose the sperm to let it in to create you. You were one of a billion or millions of different sperms that would have created a different human. But people don't think like that. They don't respect the fact that in every way you were chosen to succeed, to survive, to be alive, to be given this opportunity. And instead you wander around in the dark worrying about money, possession, and frustration and fear and anger, and you get caught up in this downward spiral. So that's where the real change can happen. What the hell? Why do you think I do this podcast, dude? You know, it's both to give back, to show appreciation, show gratitude for the fact that I am alive. I've survived incredible odds in my life. I almost died 3 times, dude. Once I actually did. They revived me. So obviously my work is not done. And that is something that I've always been very appreciative to, and showed the respect and the gratitude by doing things that nobody else would try, because it's just fucking crazy. Like, who goes from a carpenter to a developer to a stone cutter to a fucking soil biologist and survives, right?
And stays there, right? Like that's the commitment, and the commitment to something real. And when so few are aware of such a massive project, it's these farms all across our country and beyond, they need the restoration. The families that have stewarded these farms, even the ones that have lost their farms, all of this sort of thing, all of our families, there's got to be a way to come together and restore this whole thing, brother. And we are a remarkable species, but beyond that, the energetic part of us that we've been talking about, is it, the universal beings that we are, in our ability to tap into and affect that universal consciousness that these plants are also connected to. This energy is it's so remarkable. We're even seeing it in the atmosphere. It's hard to say, but there's like this, it's not a fog, but there's this haze now that we haven't seen before. And we're not really seeing it at other places, but at both of our farms, just this year, in the air, it just has this thick, rich quality of, and you can breathe it. It's this incredible water in the air. But if you drive down the road a little bit, it's just gone. And then if you go to our other farm, the barn, it's same exact thing. I don't really know what to make of that, but
think about water as a very powerful molecule, and if you have a thriving ecosystem, it's going to naturally kind of migrate to where it could be the most beneficial. And so, I mean, again, it's all about that whole vibration, like kymatics, man. If you've gone down that rabbit hole yet?
I've seen a little bit of it. Yeah, that is incredible stuff.
So again, energy is frequency.
Yeah.
Frequency attracts, it brings together, it defines. So yeah, you're basically your farms are like a tuning fork. They're attracting things to them, and that's the way to look at it. Is that if you can't explain it any other way, dive down kymatics, and that will give you I guess, the tools to chase it even further, because now you're getting into quantum fields and stuff like that, which, you know, you get into the point where energy cannot be created and destroyed. Particles can have entanglement miles away from each other. So what does that really mean? How does that apply to me? Well, your mist is an entanglement from other places that is coming together at your place because of the energy that's coming off of it.
Wow.
I'll bet you got a ton of dew in the mornings too.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. So you walk through those fields and you're friggin' soaking wet, right?
Exactly.
There you go. That's it. And I'll bet you if you walk through one of your neighbors who's either using synthetics in farming or maybe just a, you know, traditional land care company that is applying, you know, seed starter and Miracle Grow and all this other crap, you're not going to get that, dude. You're just not going to get those kinds of small little details. And those small little details amplify into a much greater existence for everything. Dude, it's like a magnet, man. And I went through this, I don't know how many times, dude. Like, I'd go do a job, you know, 3 applications of my product, and, you know, I come back a few months later just to check it, because I'm a curious guy. I always like to, you know, make sure that I've done my best work. And if for some reason I'm not happy with it, then I'll just go do an application for free. So in so many cases, and I'll just use this one example, George and Jeannie, great people. Met them through another friend, and she's very much a naturalist, and he loves gardening. And so when he heard about what I was doing, he's like, "Oh, tell me more." And so I go, "Well, the way to do this is let me see your property, what your practices are, and, you know, we can take it from there. I can make suggestions, and whether we actually do applications or whether you make your own compost or whatever, it doesn't matter, but we'll get you on the trail." So lo and behold, his garden shed full of all the synthetics, the poisons, the kill. So I'm like, all right, well, all of those have to go away. You can't use those anymore. He goes, "Oh, but I have to. My flowers won't bloom." I'm like, "Dude, trust me. You gotta get rid of all that shit, because if I do this work, if I take this on, and you apply that shit, you just wasted my time." So he accepted it, right? So treated it for a year, came back late fall, and looked at his property, and I was like, wow, fucking look at all the bugs. Dude, the lawn was moving. There were so many little insects and so many birds chasing the insects. I mean, it was just like crazy how much wildlife was there. And if I turned around and looked at his neighbor, nothing. So Jeannie sees me out there, you know, smiling. Friggin' cat that got the canary, right? And she comes running out. "What? Leighton, why are you smiling? Why are you so happy?" I go, "Jeannie, come here. Stand next to me. Look at your bushes. Look at your flowers." She goes, "Yeah, I noticed, Leighton, we have a lot more blooms this year, and they seem to be lasting a lot longer." I go, "Well, what about the smell?" She goes, "Oh, when I cut them and bring them in the house, I don't think I've ever had flowers that smell that good." I go, "All right, now look at this. Look at your holly tree. Look at the gloss, the sheen coming off those leaves." She's like, "Oh my God. It's almost reflective. It's like a mirror."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Look at your lawn." And she starts looking at it. She goes, "Is it moving?" And I'm like, "Yes, it's moving. Those are all insects and birds and butterflies. Everything's going wild." Yes. I grabbed her by her shoulders, spun her around, pointed at her neighbors, and her jaw hit the floor. She just was back and forth going, "Oh my God, how come I never noticed this?" Because you're not paying attention. You're not stopping to smell your flowers. You're not taking the time to enjoy what you've done here, what you and George have created for years. All I did was friggin' amplify. All I did was up it by getting rid of all your synthetics and bringing the biology back into play. So her neighbor comes out and she starts screaming, "Oh my God, come." And I'm like, "No, Jeannie, no, don't do that." No, she did. The neighbor came over. Jeannie started pointing out everything that was on her property, and then spun her neighbor around, and her neighbor was bummed. Her neighbor just sulked off, and I was like, "Oh, Jeannie, you shouldn't have done that." A landscape crew came up, ripped everything out. Their entire landscape, ripped it out. Brand new sod, brand new bushes, because everything was dying or freaking half dead on that property.
Yeah.
So instead of converting, she went out and spent, I don't know, $300,000-$400,000 to redo the entire landscape, only for it to friggin' end up looking like shit in a couple of years.
And that's exactly what's going on with our families, right, brother? Like the chemicals have done the same thing to our families, I think, or at least so many families on the East Coast. There's it's across the board. It's not just with the ecosystem, but it's with our neighbors too. You know, the chemicals have been destroying, and then when you see any family that sort of like steps away from it because they had a near-death experience or something like that, or they met someone like you that really showed them that love, that it's like a complete switch. But what happens is like this internal recognition and external reflection. So like this recognition that's happening within is, you know, it's happening within all of life where we're seeing it, especially in those that we love. And we're still trying to eliminate these chemicals from our lives. So I would totally say and agree with what you're saying, because that same thing is happening at the farm. That neighbor that I was talking about that lost his wife, he has people that come over and take care of his property, and they have to keep it alive basically, and because it's sick. But it's sick because it's been stripped of its life. It's been stripped of its biology. But that's the process to use, you know, to eliminate use up all of these toxic chemicals from massive chemical companies. Like, yeah, we don't even need to get into them. But when we can show that farm to farm and people can experience it, I think that, did they come around? Did the neighbor come back later on? And
No, it was, you know, it's the old ego thing that gets involved. That's the hardest part, is that, especially when you're all about possession and money, you can't get out of your own way. Like it's going to take some kind of catastrophic event, like somebody getting sick in her family, and the doctor saying, "Oh no, you've got to eat 100% organics, and you got to stay away from synthetics." Well, what do you mean stay away from synthetics? Well, you can't be using poisons and pesticides on your property. That's only going to kill your immune system that's already in default. So I found that that's either someone had a traumatic experience, like you said, or someone around them had a traumatic experience, or they just got curious. Now, during COVID, a lot of people got curious, like, because they were sitting around all day, like, what am I doing with my life? Like, why am I working so much? I'm commuting 4 hours a day to work 8 hours a day, to come home exhausted, fried, and burn out, get up the next day and do the same thing. And maybe there's a better way. And what am I eating? And they start reading up about food and you know, the quality of the nutrition levels that have just collapsed. And those are the kinds of things that get people to change. Otherwise, it's immersion, man. Like with Jeannie and George, I had to like waterboard those motherfuckers to do it, to take the risk. And trust me, I got calls from George all the time, like, if my flowers don't come up, Bob, you know, just all of that shit, because he was scared. He was scared. He believed in this system of chemistry, geochemistry. And so it was hard for him to leave that behind, because he had control over it. He knew, oh, I only add this 2 teaspoons to my watering can and my flowers will grow really quickly, right? But what kind of flowers and you know, how many? And so that was the big thing, was that, you know, it has to be a catastrophic event. It has to be something that you make happen. Like you don't talk about it, you just fucking do it. And even to some degree at your own risk. But Obviously I'm a firm believer of you get what you give. So the more you give, the more you get in life. And that's another hard thing for people to trust, because if they're just giving themselves away, well, I'm looked at like I'm weak because I'm generous and kind and loving. I'm not like, trying to fuck you over all the time. And that is a byproduct of our society. And it's a tough nut to crack, but it can be cracked. But something I really was dying to share with you is been diving down a research hole pretty hardcore for the last 2 months on the mechanics of organic matter. So most people are familiar with SOM, soil organic matter. It's one of those things that you see on your tests, your reports, your soil chemistry reports. Organic matter. What does that mean? What form is it in? So we way back when I started talking about composting and saying compost is a process. It's not a product. So we need to start talking about the fact that it depends if this is palm or mom or some other form of organic matter. Where is it? Where does biocomplete or biointensive fall in that process of composting? So you start with GOM, ground up organic matter. That eventually turns into palm, particulate organic matter, and eventually goes all the way to MOAM, mineral associated organic matter. Now, mineral associated organic matter lasts a long time in the soil and provides long-term nutrition. POM is more of a short-term version. Well, now soil science in the last few years has come up with another form of organic matter, and that's called DOM, dissolved organic matter. So until I read that paper and really started diving down this woman's research, I always wondered why. Why is it that when I make this compost extract and I apply it, it works so quick and so well? Well, come to find out, DOM is really exudates. And now this was something I had heard back 4 or 5 years ago when I was talking with Chip Osborne about this new company called Woods End in Maine. It does some really deep dives on compost. Like the test costs $800. Like who can afford that, right? But if you're going to really scientifically study this phenomenon called organic matter and the different phases, you really need to be looking at all of these different factors. And he started talking about them measuring that exact thing, the dissolved organic matter. So basically like taking your compost, putting it in water and shaking it up, which is kind of like making an extract. That's what one of the tests they perform is to see how much of that organic matter is ready to liquefy and move down into the soil. So DOM turns out is only 1 to 2% of the organic matter in a healthy ecosystem. So it's a fraction, right? It's a tiny bit. But your brother's tea is DOM. That's why it works so well. So there's your answer to people that are like on the fence or curious, but aren't ready to just jump off the friggin' bridge. You get them a small amount of that, and you tell them here's 2 plants. Put this on one, but not on the other, and watch what happens. Yeah. And it's like they touched the palm of Jesus's hand and felt the nail hole. It's like, aha, oh, now I understand. Maybe I should be doing more of that. And that encourages them to talk. They can now brag to their friends. Oh, look at my plants. Look what I've created, right? And that gets them excited. And when they're excited, they get their friends excited. And that's another way to energetically shift this dynamic that we're up against where, oh, we've been doing it this way for 30 years. Everything's fine. No, it's not fun. And that 30 years cost a lot of people their lives, and potentially you too. You just maybe don't know it yet. Maybe you have cancer lurking in your body as a result of all those toxic chemicals that you use to kill shit or fertilize stuff. So anyway, I thought I'd share that with your boys because it was something that is relatively new in science, but it really explains something that I couldn't explain before. I cannot explain why it works so well, but now I know.
Thank you, brother.
Exudates. So instead of that plant having to do all that work with photosynthesis to create ATP, to move that down, to create the exudates, to feed the bacteria, to have the bacteria bring that back up, you are making exudate. So that plant can focus on vegetative or fruitive growth, right? So that was a big piece of the puzzle that was missing that I definitely want you to share with them. And if they start researching, like go to ResearchGate or Google Scholar or any one of those, really good websites, and there's information out, not a lot, but it's coming. It's trickling out now that there is this other form of organic matter that has not been really discussed or acknowledged.
Well, thank you so much. That's amazing. We've started to see those. Well, actually, we've seen quite a few of those testimonials where people have just started. They did an experiment and they just did it with a few plants, using the Brothers Brew with a few plants, and they saw such amazing and immediate results. Where, like you were talking about earlier, with the other flowers that had the wildflowers that had just like mirror like sheen to their leaves and just vitality off the charts, and then when they started to produce fruit, they were just like, what is going on? And the resin production is just it's pretty funny when you're using the same camera that you've always used, but now all of a sudden your camera isn't capable of taking an accurate photograph of what's going on the resin on the flower.
Effectively showing. You've gone to another level. You've gone to an energetic level. So there's this dude that created these glasses. I forget his name, but he used coal tar to change the glass color to more of a purple. When you look at the glasses, they kind of look purplish. But it opens up the spectrum so you can begin to see the other various forms of light. Humans are very restricted. We just see this tiny narrow band of visible light. There's a lot more bands. I wish I remember his friggin' name. But these glasses were once he came out and everyone started catching on to him. Basically, you look at people, you can see their aura, right? You can see if they're a nasty, evil person or if they're like light sunshine and orange and all friggin' pure like a sunshine. And so they stole his technology, like Tesla. They stole his technology, drove him insane, called him a lunatic, and it's starting to creep out again now. But that was the other interesting thing about those glasses was even the trees and the plants were showing different energies, right? So if you put that Brothers tea on those two plants or side by side it, you would visibly be able to see the difference. Right, that's what I'm fucking talking about, and again, these are tools that, if I find that friggin' post, I will forward it to you because we all as a species need to be able to start to figure out how we can get these tools, and then share the tools because once you've seen it, you can't unsee it, brother.
Exactly, brother. That's it. That's it right there, man. Once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. That's it.
But the camera can't fucking show it. And I always tell people, like, well, where's your photo album? I go, you can't see it. The camera can't show you the luster between this leaf and that leaf or how many insects are in here and none over there.
Yeah.
You have to visually see it with your own eyes. It's the only way.
And it speaks to us and our imbalance maybe when we're talking about, or I'll use my personal experience. My son's bringing all of what they've brought, all of nature basically inside. To me, that everything I ever learned about indoor horticulture is like, no, that is the exact opposite direction of where you want to go. But I'm telling you, wow, I don't even have words. Every time they do a garden, it gets better. And you have a package that's actually, we're waiting for one more purple strain it's almost ready, but you have a package that's almost ready to be sent. And Oh my word. I I have I don't even have words for it. But getting back to that Brothers Brew, this is like a clear indication of what you were talking about a minute ago. One of the people that we met at the cannabis markets, one of the cannabis markets that we offer at the farm, he called the stuff holy water. So that was for us a clear indication that, like somebody is actually seeing the energy being produced through the plant that in that way that you were talking about. And also like having that as an ability for my family to recognize just those small experiences. What they're not small, they're like really massive experiences where they're having that direct communication with a neighbor, and that neighbor is having such profound results with whatever it is they're growing. It doesn't matter. Even cactuses require some water. So it's everything is producing these like amazing results across the board. And to see them bring in these insects, intentionally bring in insects, intentionally bring in literally everything they could find out there. There were, I don't know, they just sort of wrote their own rule book and basically took what the stewards of soil had to offer, and the horizontal style, of course, they just used that as their focus, and they created this incredible ecosystem within the house that is drawing in animals from outside, and not just our animals. Like we find our ducks in there all the time. That's crazy. We can't even keep them out of there. But the other animals will just come in, like, and snakes and salamanders, and it's remarkable how quickly the worms reproduce, and the mushrooms growing naturally now. But all of these things are just, I'm expecting like booms of like butterflies to just come out of the place or something crazy like this. I don't really know, man. It's rainbows to start booming out of the thing. But, it basically is producing that with the flowers and the medicines that these beds are producing. So, and to see them duplicate that at another farm because somebody showed interest, and they've done that several times now, and that's produced amazing results for those farms as well. And to see another family radiate that incredible energy because of this experience of transformation due to the stewardship and dedication that was taught to us. And we're just like continuing to steward this with this, we're adding little pieces as we go. And this year is so many things. Like when we started this memorial garden, there was another baby deer at like the corner of it the day that we went to plant it, like still had spots on it, just a little tiny guy. But we get that all the time. We get these, and I don't know, these mystical, magical moments. And it's as if these, it's communication for sure. My wife came out of the barn one day because I yelled. Every once in a while, I'll see something magical in nature or in our environment, and I'll honor Mother Nature. I'll honor spirit. In one way or another, I'll yell, "I love you" or something. I don't know what I'll do. It'll just be spontaneous. And I think that's what I did. And there were these V of flying geese in the sky, Canadian geese. And when I did that, they like really moved, and I've never really seen that. And they just sort of like recognized me, recognizing them. And I yelled to Tracy and she came out and we did it together, and they like turned around. I've never seen geese turn around either, but so there's all of these really cool things that are happening. And the communication that we've been building, that you've been building all across the country, and that all of our brothers have been, all of our sisters have been, in all of these different things, right? Like Angelique, she's been focusing on her arts. She's been focusing on, well, she's got lots of different businesses going, made by angels and made with angels. And that's like she makes all kinds of really cool things. I don't even know what they are really. Shirts and sweatshirts and keychains and yeah, she's got her bakery going. That's thriving. She's doing wedding cakes and cupcakes and all kinds of magical things, man. I can't wait for you to try her food, because next time you're up, you're just going to be, oh, it's going to be magical. If you like food, you're going to be like, you've got a treat. And also, like, the school's been going really well. Megan has been producing amazing results, and she's looking to keep that sort of perfection that all children are born with naturally, just thriving in these youngsters. And that's the level of dedication that she has with her school. That's her focus. She's going back to school, in fact, to get her master's, and she just started, and she graduated a while ago, but going back, and she's really excited about it. And we're excited about it because her professors recognize that she does everything completely. They show her, this is the framework, this is the box we want you to work in. And she says, basically, I don't work in boxes, and this isn't, this is how I'm going to do it. And every single time it's revered, and not just with her professors, but with all of her fellow students. And then to see those results in those magnificent little youngsters is amazing. I mean, to see a 1-year-old speak, I don't know, 4 languages, count in 4 languages, and they're, not even a year and a half old yet. There's so many examples like that. Speak paragraphs and sing songs and multiple instruments, and there's so many things, but I feel like it's all directly connected to that energy and motion that you were talking about, brother, and that recognition of it as well. Because when we are nourished with that, or nurtured with that spirit energy, that Mother Nature energy, it gives us that reflection that we're really needing, the reassurance. And that, to me, there's so much gratitude there. There's so much excitement for life there. So we get to celebrate that pretty often now as a family, and we're looking for new ways to sort of focus our energies personally and as a whole family in that direction, and dedicate and focus our time, while knowing that it is what, giving is what brings that energy back. And that's what we've been for as long as I can remember, and remaining true to who we are, even when in the past we may have been judged for being naive. Now most are seeing that what you were saying, brother, that being real is, everybody's seeing it now, and everybody's like really resonating with what they're finding inside, to be something they haven't really spent time with very much in their lives. So for all of us to have this level of healing across the board is really cool. And we're trying to create more and more community situations where we can we can actually bring people together that have the same intention, so that when we are together, we can amplify this, across the grid of the planet, and the energy and the consciousness can all start to thrive according to, all of the wisdom that you walk in and carry. And same with Ken and Lily and Tracy and Mikey and Angel, all of these incredible giants among us. And I think we've all started to see these reflections in ways that help that spark.
I think you have to go, Leighton. I think you have the dogs. Shango must be back, your company. So I think you're going to sign off now, right?
Yeah, it's probably a good thing. I've been trying to keep on mute and keep them quiet, but as soon as I got them quiet down, they hear something and go ballistic again. So, Dennis, thank you so much for coming on and sharing. I always appreciate seeing you and hearing the successes of your children and your family. Keep up the great work. And, dude, I'd love a cupcake, man. If you got time, mail me a cupcake so I can enjoy your daughter's work, all right?
Well, I definitely will. We got to get a couple of boxes to each of you. We've already filled a whole box for good-sized boxes for you. We're going to have to do more than one of those. I guess they have big ones. Expect it soon. Within a couple of weeks, a week or something. Very soon.
Whatever. But I am a sweets guy, so that makes me really excited to be able to have the opportunity to taste that cupcake and enjoy the energy that she put into it, which I know she did. So, Ken, as always, thank you so much, brother, for all your hard work and time behind the scenes and getting this all together. And Dennis, we'll have you back on in a few months. We'll get you through the summer, the busy time, and before you get into harvest and early fall. Why don't you plan to come back on?
Sounds great. Thank you very much, guys.
Right,
you don't have to run away, Dennis. It's just Leighton's running away.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, he's got company, so he's got to run away, but we can continue on. What else would you like to share with us? Your daughter is doing fantastic with the school. The boys are doing fantastic with what they're doing and sharing that knowledge. I love that you're having people do the side-by-sides. Do you have any more people doing stuff like that?
Yeah, we're actually asking for as many farms as possible to collaborate on a few different projects. Actually, we want to share these genetics. So I'm glad you brought that up, brother, because these genetics, that's the biggest part of all of what we do, I think, now, because they've advanced so much that if you consider what a thriving ecosystem and soil system, thriving life in a soil system will provide a set of genetics that has never been fed plant food over the course of 5 years. Mm-hmm. That alone in these past 5 years will offer an entirely different, it's almost like it's an entirely different species, right? Where most of cannabis agriculture is traditional agriculture, and it really is a different seed. But it doesn't just have to be, it can be any seed, any food. You can pick corn, for example. If we're growing corn, there's an entirely different vibration to a living ear of corn, and one that was grown traditionally, that was grown with chemicals. And whether there are so many challenges that can arise from growing traditional cannabis agriculture. And by traditional, I mean chemical agriculture or salts. And from my experience, it's the other side when you're growing with a living soil system, where they're all different expressions of blessings, or they're all different experiences of synergy and like it's all done in ease, right? It's all like meant to be, or just part of what's natural and what's wild. And it's difficult for me to say it, but what you end up with over the course of years when building a library and a bank of genetics is almost a different species. I mean, it is that different. And from our experience with, when you're using the plant and somebody that is 60 years old, 50 years old, 70 years old, they've been using cannabis their whole life, and they tell you that, that makes them feel like they're 16 again, like they're 16-year-old high. I can't remember the exact words that they use, but it's so remarkable how there have been so many different people that have said things like that. And it's, excuse me, it's just this expression from all of it coming together through us. And this connection that's happening that with our genetics, we would like to share, and we would like to get those out to as many neighbors as possible, because when we're all experiencing, and please do those side by sides, because it's the most exciting thing when a really, really high tech camera isn't capable of capturing the resin on a plant grown in regenerative soil. So simple things like that, or like this microscope I have that is meant for that. That thing, it's meant for that. It's designed for that, but it even struggles. So it's just it's funny, because I think that we're about, as a species, if we can bring all of this together and move beyond the challenges and directly into the blessings that those challenges offered, we can thrive the way that the plants are. If we're wanting to be alive in our true nature as a big human family, then we'll naturally reflect that same image that all of nature does, right? That the ecosystem is offering as a reflection to us. So it's just it's so simple, and it's hard to see when you're in the middle of it. Like for our family, I see it within my kids. Like I can see it in the vitality of their skin and the vitality of their hair and the vitality of their speech and their inspiration and their, the things that they talk about and the things that they're interested. All of these, it's very interesting how that's all tied to the biology in our gut as well. Yeah. And I just being present on, let alone, as part of this podcast, just being present with this podcast over and over again it's a miracle, brother, because to honor biology and to really celebrate biology and to have that reflection back and forth across the world. We've seen some really incredible interviews that you guys have done. Oh my gosh. And conversations with, just like you, giants, like it's just such an incredible thing for us all to celebrate around the world. It's already happening right here. And when we sort of like bridge all of these things that are happening, like the focus on the world waters and like this dedication to the soil, I think that more and more groups that are dedicated to the study and observation of this life, of this biology, they'll just start popping up everywhere. And basically that's what we're hoping to do in our region of the world, is to do exactly what Bigelow Laboratories is doing here in Maine and all around the world, is studying ocean life so that they can better understand what it takes to help that diversity of life thrive, and to reduce our impact with things like chemicals and poor practices. So I think that we've all been teaching one another this. Like our grandfathers taught us this in a litany, a long list of different ways, and all the way back to the indigenous, and getting back to like that full circle of sort of like honor that we all experience in a family, in our family. We can broadcast that energy in a way that our direct ecosystem is then reflecting it back. But then, we're talking to our brothers all over the world, in Canada right here, right now, that is doing the same thing. And in California, it's like it's remarkable how, while we're in the midst of it, we may not be able to see the whole picture, but I feel like we're beginning to feel a much larger aspect of who we are personally through our connection to something very real and something intrinsic to what our heart can feel. And, this connection that we've built farm to farm right here in our region, right here in our community or in our county or in our state, or even beyond that, all the way over to other countries, that the soil and these plants, genetics, all of these conversations they've just offered this sort of like reunion that's happening within spirit. And I think that that's another reflection that biology is offering. And man, you're all just like amazing, and that incredible to see who I am by like really observing, how can we feed our and nourish our ecosystem and family and abroad with the wisdom and incredible lessons that you guys carry, and so many that you've had on. Thank you so much for all that you guys have done with this.
Well, it's been our pleasure, and the knowledge that we share, the people that we bring on, it's all about broadening people's horizons. Like you're finding with what you're doing, that your genetics have taken a new level. Your personal understanding has taken a new level. And if we go back into the strictly the biological, and you mentioned it yourself with your gut biology, as you raise your health and awareness of your own body and the biology in your body, it's like changing your genetic potential in the plant. The more biology, the more diverse the biology, the more diverse the building materials available to that biology, we can achieve things in our own physical forms that we wouldn't have ever thought of being able to do, being able to see things and get in touch with nature in such way. You have to be of a pure spirit, but your biology, if it's at that next level, is vibrating at a new level as well. And it's when you're talking about your genetics and how they've changed, how someone can consume your medicine that has been smoking for decades and go, wow, this is so much better. I get so much more from it. That's because you've added that biology, that diversity of potential back into your soil systems. Talking about the mist that, and Leighton said it, you walk out there in the morning in that morning dew. Well, that part of that is coming up into that mist. Then you're breathing that in. It's hitting your skin. The biology that's coming off of the plants in the air around you is coming back into your system and allows you to see more than what other people can see, because not only that you're open to it, but it's just the frequency and the energy is able to flow through that moisture, through your water, the plant's water, the soil's water, our planet's water, and it just takes it to the next level. Now, Lily did have a question about how's the lake projects going.
The lake projects, we actually have a meeting coming right up. I think it's tomorrow, but it's a world water meeting and dedication.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of projects going, and we need to make more time for the lake project in California, because, like you're saying, this, that water does become a mist from that lake, and it changes the mercury to a breathable mercury, and that's I think it's called methyl mercury. It's much more dangerous, and I feel like there are all kinds of answers right in the biology, and things like putting hay bales around the edges of the lake with mushrooms that will absorb the heavy metals, the mercury from the lake, but also filter systems. There's just really incredible ideas that are coming from directly from the water itself, which is, to me, that's where we're going to find the answers. If we can find the answer in the water, for example, getting energy from the water with a machine that, like a Brown's gas machine, that separates hydrogen and oxygen to use those gases as the most abundant gases. That alone it's really remarkable, because that fire, that stoichiometric mixture of those two gases makes a fire that is perfect, and it can communicate with all substances. So the potential of that dealing with this mercury issue in some form of a controlled system, there are things on the horizon that we're all excited about. And as far as working together to build bridges all over this land, this country, this beyond this country, this world, even, to solve these issues. It's happening, and I think we're all ready for it to happen faster, much faster. And we're seeing all of these things happening in society in different countries, and watching these things happen, and we're seeing people group together in ways where their communities are building and families are building bonds that they haven't before, and those bonds are producing such real feelings and such real assurances and reassurances of that truth and dedication to spirit, and not even knowing how to talk about it at first, right? But then very soon you're like recognizing that when you're living these experiences, you're embodying this presence, and when you're starting to declare these things with the I am, and you're starting to see brothers and sisters do the same thing. And then as that affirmation unfolds in their life, through them producing the feelings ahead of time, through them living the expression even before they get to the manifestation, this is such beautiful majesty, because when it all unfolds like a flower, and like the beauty that biology is in this communication, for example, we get to like experience that expansion and that evolution, and that these things that used to be kept secret in secret societies, for example, and there's such a long list of those societies, brother, that they all teach sort of the same thing in different ways. And I think you and I would be good for a conversation for that, because we probably between us have learned about most of them. And it's also very intriguing that the mother plant is present in in the foundational aspect of all of those different societies. And when we connect to our true nature, when we connect to nature at all, spirit just sort of like flows through us in a way that we then get led on to these new inspirations, and these experiences are expanding us now at a seeming exponential rate. And so what we're wanting, what we're declaring, and as a family, we're building these bridges all over, and we're so excited to have this momentum and to keep up this momentum and to offer this feeling of reinvigoration of a vital energy force, neighbor to neighbor, all across our land, all across this continent, this amazing things will happen very, very quickly when that tsunami of light happens, that tsunami of regeneration of life. Yeah.
Well, when the more people realize the truth of what's going on with the chemicals, etc., and how it's not only damaging themselves, but the very life that we have to have health in anything on this planet, that's when the real transition, I think, is going to take that next big leap. But until the people are willing to open their minds and look, it's like when Leighton was talking about, the woman, he brought her out onto the garden and showed her, and then showed her neighbors. She hadn't even realized what was going on in her own garden because she was too close to it. And it's that, snap of the brain, of that moment of clarity when you really wake up and go, my goodness, like it's so much nicer and so much better, so much healthier. It's most people aren't willing to open their eyes, or haven't been willing to open their eyes, but that is changing on a global scale. And like you're talking, it's we're one species, and it's focusing on our survival as a species globally, not just North or South America or Europe or Australia. Has to be a global effort if we're going to change back to the Garden of Eden. We need as many people globally to understand this. And you're sharing your experiences, your boys and your daughters, your wife, going out and talking to people, sharing that knowledge, especially with the new product that the boys have, being able to show a person a side by side done from their own hands, where they've done it. They go, oh my goodness, why did nobody ever tell me this? And thank you, Dennis, and your entire family for sharing what you're doing, how you're doing it, and most importantly, that we can all do it.
Thank you, brother. And that's exactly what we're looking for, is when they have that experience, what happens after they have that experience is the same thing that I can see. I don't even know how many thousands of miles we are away from each other. There is a glow that's coming off of you, brother. But that happens when you experience those levels of life. But that is a choice, right? It's like it's a choice that it turns the switch inside of us that we aren't ever going to go back. It's like Leighton said, once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you live it, you can't and would never want to unlive it, right? Yeah. And something that points at that really strongly is this thing where they're saying that within 20 years, 1 in 3 children will have autism in the U.S. Mm. Well, what does that mean for 20 years beyond that?
You don't want to know.
So, brother, if we're already here and we already have these solutions and we already have these clear indications of building bridges and wanting to steward this life and having this experience and wanting to build laboratories to study this biology and to help expand this in a bigger way, in a faster way, in all of these things coming together with the school that we're trying to design, and well, it's already running. But when we expand that school to its full potential, it will include all that we're talking about, and it will offer studies, going through college level education, all because of this incredible experience that happened when we had and chose to switch that switch. And in that experience, there was no going back, because it was simply like that near-death experience for me, where I went to this place and it seemed like all of the energy that creation was flowing through me. All of the different streams of life and vibrant life force, all of that energy was flowing through me in that place. And when I came back, and it was all benevolent, it was all light and love, and so I was so loved. I was so part of that intrinsically, and coming back and knowing, yes, and knowing that here, though, bringing that back and embodying that, and seeing others making that choice to embody that. It's somehow offering this song, right? It started out like this conversation, but now it's become this incredible garden that's just singing all the time, like Eden. It's just emitting these incredible energies that nobody can really explain. But I feel like as each of us, brother to brother, brother to sister, all across the world, as we each experience this, everything changes, because it only takes one experience in this incredible life transforming thing to know and really, really honor that knowing that you found. And I put up on the sign in front of the barn a long time ago, breathe and know. But it's about that peace and stillness, right? It's that it's about that recognition of what's happening in the breath, the gift that we are given. Oh man. And the possibility in that gift that's given in that breath in. And then what happens when we're breathing out is just, that is amazing, but when we can literally open our heart bigger and bigger with each in-breath, we'll start to feel that whole body tingling thing. And then when we really let that spirit really just run through us, that will actually make all of our cells, and seemingly, probably more accurately to say, I think it's the atoms, right? The atoms inside each cell are just like humming so high, vibrating so high, that the whole being, the whole temple, the whole vessel is just like really humming. And at that point, you're just like overflowing that energy. And I feel like when we direct that energy, that's the real resource of you as creator, of you as I am presence, as the embodying energy of the truth, that image and reflection, moving forward and receiving and imbuing all that you are outwardly as well. It's like sometimes our experiences will see things like last time I talked about an eagle that got a couple of our ducks. Sometimes it's hard to locate the blessing and those levels of contrast and challenge. And thanks to my brothers, they could even help me with that. So thank you very much for that. And that is the sort of thing that I'm talking about, where we're just recognizing it in the energy that is also, it's like underneath or supporting all of these conversations and all of these interactions that we're having. But the energy is expanding in a way that it's now sort of not just supporting us, but it's enveloping everything in a way that it's speeding everything up. It's like, for us in our experience, offering this clarity and heightened focus that is producing in all of these different aspects, that is producing our creative flow, so that all of these things are coming to fruition. Like, we've designed a game as a family that it's really, really beautiful as far as this clarity and focus on what's important and meaningful to family and life, and dedication to spirit and God and all of it. But really it's about consciousness and the embodiment, all done in fun, all done in excitement and an excitement for life. And it sort of like gets us to little by little let down our guard, or even a lot all at once, let down of our guard, and like, or release the husk. I like that metaphor very much. That allows that life to really flourish. And I see it really like a same energy that's just like pouring off of you, man. It's like this truth that doesn't really need words. You can just see the incredible recognition. You can see that embodied truth where like that you're walking as the I am. You're walking as this creator being. And it's just something that maybe I wasn't seeing 10 years ago or 15 years ago, but now I'm living every day. And thanks to this connection to nature and our brotherhood and our family's relation and all of it together, it's this song that's happening in the garden, but in our beings, in our recognition, and that ability to see what's real in the eyes of our children, in the eyes of our loved ones. It's really incredible, man.
Well, it comes down to that energy, frequency, and vibration. The higher that we keep our energy, the higher that we project our vibration. Anybody around you, if they're not going to move up to your vibration, they're going to leave.
Yeah.
That's where, if you're in an area where there's a lot of people with negative vibrations, you feel so uncomfortable. You don't want to be there. And yet at the same time, as that lit candle that I talk about all the time, you can light up that room of negative with your own vibration and draw it up higher and higher, opening your eyes and recognizing you have that potential. Any place, any time, under any circumstances, you have the potential to see beyond the physical, beyond what's happening, and be able to manipulate the energy around you, draw it in through you, and hand it back out to people to raise their vibration, to see some of the things that you're seeing, Dennis, what your sons are seeing, your daughters are seeing. And being able to share that is a true gift. And I love that you're drawing more and more community and local people in to experience the joy and happiness you get just by sitting in nature, by taking the time to smell that flower, whether one person calls it a weed, but it's a beautiful flower and it's got this scent that just uplifts you. We all have that potential to do that, to be in touch, and to let that energy shine not just within us, but all around us, and to project it out to others.
Absolutely. And to be nourished by that it's life's miracle. It's something so remarkable. It's like sort of like the experience of the near-death experience. It's like that stream of benevolent energy being offered by any and all in our presence. And that is, it really is what we are searching for. We're searching for clear ability to communicate our love, and we're looking for that same love to be communicated back to us, because when we feel that, it's something that's so true and so real and so undeniable that it is like a pure reflection. It's like, oh, okay, now we're talking. Now we're talking. And as a family, when we see that in another family, there's just this this magic that's happening. It's like a fire that's getting stronger, or a river that is somehow flowing with more energy. And it's incredible how those energies that are being produced, also, like you were saying, can nurture and then nourish. It's nurture us and then nourish our experience and our loved ones all around us. And so, yeah, we're looking for new ways to do this. Like, we're wanting to offer meditation retreats, weekend and week-long meditation retreats. We're wanting to call one Walking with God. My wife Tracy came up with that. And we have all sorts of different really cool experiences with that. And we have a few different things that we have planned that we're really excited about, but simple things also, like bonfires with the community, and just inviting people to bring over whatever it is they want to bring over, and just like get together. And we've put on the front sign that we've opened a private campground. We're doing everything private because, well, for a lot of reasons. Privacy is what protects us from the corporate.
Keep your sovereignty, yeah.
Exactly, brother. And that is very important to us. It helps us align with God, and it helps us declare our alignment with God. It helps us really stay true to our church, the Church of Nature, and all of it. It's like, it's really remarkable how it all sort of just aligns naturally, because when we were doing these things individually, we didn't even necessarily know why we were doing them. When I opened
crushing up the crystals and adding them into the soil, like, who does that?
Yeah.
Dennis's voice.
Yeah, that's true, brother. That's so good.
It's just allowing yourself to accept that there are these other things out there, and just giving yourself over to listening and going, okay, something inside me says, yes, we should try this. And then going out and doing it, seeing the results is phenomenal.
It really is. Just to allow the result to like touch your lips, or to smell the result, or just to stand with the plant, or just to stand beside it for 10 minutes and look at its beauty. Just, oh man, there's just so many experiences that are so very, very simple. But as a farmer, like, I don't even know if other farmers get to experience these things or what.
Some, yeah.
Yes, so I know that you guys do, but I hope there's like hundreds of thousands of us very, very soon, millions of us and billions of us very, very soon. Yeah. And I feel like like you're saying, whenever you get into a new environment and you're bringing all of that energy in, I hadn't even considered it doing it that way. I sort of like imbue my surroundings simply by it's sort of like the chi energy that I learned to sort of like create and expand within at a very young boy. As a very young boy, I have been doing that my whole life without really talking about it much. But I use that in farming, and I use that to imbue these everything. But today I used it. I guess they would call that Reiki. I used it for Tracy. She's had a bout of arthritis in her neck and in her shoulder, and it's been pretty bad the past couple of days. Today was really difficult, so I just did some of that energy work, and I hardly touched her, like barely touched her. But I've been, like you were saying earlier, I've been given these sort of visions that taught me how to heal. That was incredible. But then those visions, they expanded to new things, but it's always shown in light. And I think that's also incredible, because that's the light is what's feeding these plants and nourishing us in the spring, and all of this reinvigoration, this revitalization, all of the restoration of life. And it's all coming through that light and through that movement of energy. And the dedication that it takes to steward something like it's all about the biology, or any of all the other projects that you guys have going. It's really incredible, and it's so very powerful for the younger generation to experience this level of dedication, because when they're learning as they are appreciating, like they're also receiving it in the other direction. So it's like a circle. They're appreciating as they're learning. There's this multi-dimensional experience that's happening when they're part of this dedication to life and dedication to the vital life force energy that we are looking to restore. And as we communicate it back and forth, there's not only a little nod that's happening with the younger generation, but there's a bright smile that's coming with it. It's like it's probably the purest recognition I've ever seen in my life. And to see that with one that is choosing honor and letting go of systems of programming like judgment and thought patterns that distort who they are. They're actually honoring who they are, and they're living in honor of their ancestors and their elders and the children that are also here and around us. And to see the younger generation doing this, it's really cool.
Peter Cactus had a comment. Don't mean to pry, but is Dennis in a multi-family community living arrangement?
I guess you could. No, maybe we're not, but we have a campground now, and we're excited about all working together and co-creating on all these different projects and all these different ways. So we've had a lot of experience with community projects of all different types and stewarding communication and relationships of all different kinds. Sometimes, you guys mentioned that earlier too, sometimes in energy or choices being made by an individual or even a group of individuals won't align with a project that you have going, or the integrity that you choose in this stewardship of life. We've gone through that as well. And I think that both groups grow from that experience, right? Where maybe we'll have to declare, sorry, that behavior isn't really aligning with our community, or that's just not what we're looking for, and that's not what we're trying to do. That distortion isn't part of our focus. So it helps us all celebrate our integrity and our dedication and declaration. And at the same time, it helps those that we may have had to turn away in the past, in a long list of different ways. And we've heard about that and later on. So there have been so many different groups and experiences and events and things at our community center that we have got to celebrate life from, over 100 years old all the way down to under one. So it's really interesting how to see them all communicating in new ways, right? Where we start every day with the Om circle, and that is a very special thing. And then we follow that by some affirmations and our focus. And this family practice, some might call it a practice or a dedication to who we are. This has helped us remain true, right? To remain in a balanced energy, because sometimes we have experiences where, like I was just talking about, when you have all of these different dynamics in community, hundreds and even thousands of people at this point, there's bound to be some that are going to need a little extra love. And we actually are always excited to provide that. And but sometimes, like I just mentioned, like you guys were saying earlier, sometimes that leads to diverging paths, and it's beautiful and it's in its own right and in its own way. So I feel like we're even getting the blessings, all are getting the blessings from that. And that's something to honor and celebrate as well.
Well, as long as the person is willing to accept that they're not always right, there is a lesson to learn.
Yes.
It's all in the acceptance. It's not ever how I react to what someone, or I'm sorry, it's not about what someone says about me or about you or about anything. It's how I react to that. And it's the lesson inside myself, to be focused on the positive. I always try to move that direction. I never try to, harm people or, yell at people and say you're wrong. No, you just have a different way of reaching a goal. As long as we have the same goal, doesn't matter to me what methodology you use to grow, as long as you're reaching the same end game that we all need, which is health on our planet, health in our bodies. That's really, it doesn't matter the divergent paths as long as they're leading to that end goal.
Absolutely, brother. And I think that's happening for all of us, that we're in whatever direction somehow and in that benevolent way, opening to that truth. We're releasing those borders of protection that we've needed in the past, and in that old world consciousness, if we could call it that, we're stuck in these sort of systems of confinement. We're stuck in these limitations that we can see through experience. Our reality is reflecting those things to us. So if we're focused on challenges that another present, or if we're reacting to an old world consciousness or a set of circumstances offered by someone that is living from their past or trying to design their now according to their future, they're not really present. So, and you can tell clear presence. It's just something that's felt and doesn't need words. So this communication gets easier and easier and easier and easier. So it builds its own integrity the more we live it, the more we choose it. And through experience, it sort of like becomes our remembering. And as we release those those little layers of protection or perceived protection, they were actually prevention, release all of that prevention, then now we can actually communicate brother to brother without concern for, is he going to judge me about this or that, or what do I look like, or anything else, because none of that shit matters. And like recognizing what's real in my brother as he speaks it, as he shares that love, and I can actually breathe that in and like really honor and celebrate what I'm feeling, and because that was shared with me as a feeling. And that's what's really getting us that exponential growth and at 10x levels, right? That 100x, 1000x levels at a personal growth level, but also an experiential level where our reality reflects back to us all of those seeds that were planted in divine energy and planted in truth, planted in that connection that we all share and sort of like imbue our reality with. And that when, the youngest among us reflect that back to us, and then the oldest among us reflect that back to us, and then they reflect it back to one another, when before that was not the case. That was not the bridge that was being built. When we have that ability to observe it and like really recognize what we're seeing in our experience that's outside of us, but it's really not, it's two other people that are sitting over there, but really it's part of us, right? And like
entanglement. Leighton mentioned entanglement, and it's through our species, it's through the plants, it's through the planet. It's all a synergistic relationship right across the board. And that's why we can influence others' feelings and emotions. That's where we can heal others by bringing that frequency up to a higher level and that vibration up to a point where the pain dissipates, because it's not accepted in the cell. It's not accepted in the joint anymore, because we've raised that up. That's the entanglement we all have. And as children, we automatically give that entanglement. We accept it. We share it. We live in it. It's when the blinders get put on through our education that we start to lose that. That's why your daughter's school is so important, teaching those foundational understandings. And that is a key to everything. And the entanglement, the growth, the more power, the more people understanding these concepts, the greater energy we have as a collective, as a community that's going out and touching other people, not even knowing they're being touched by this energy.
Yeah, that's incredible, man, because when you can feel it, like when they may not, they all feel it, even initially, when they're not really willing to recognize that they're feeling it. Sometimes it takes a couple of times, but when they continually feel that really good feeling, and they're recognizing that they, this is the second or third time they felt this. This is okay.
I like this,
Yeah, and that it's sort of like a remembering that's happening inside. That's so primary to who we really are. It's so primal. It's like it brings us way back. Suddenly
touch back with source and align yourself with that upper energy. It's like when your near-death experience, where you saw, you felt, you tasted that experience. That's just the normal experience we're all supposed to have all the time. We've lost that. coming back to it is the journey we're on right now.
Yes, absolutely. That's and it's so gratifying. I have so much gratitude for everything in life, right? I mean, before the near death experience, I'd had moments where I had given up completely. I had completely surrendered my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I did so in a state of gratitude, ultimate gratitude for every experience I had had up to that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, I was released from everything that I had thought I was. It was like I literally removed this husk or this
Yeah.
shell. And it took me a long time to really understand what had happened and all of the visions that have happened after all of that. There have been so many, brother, and they keep expanding. But I used a few of them for my wife today, who was crying in pain, and she never gets to be because we have all of these wonderful medicines. She never gets to be in that level of pain. Nobody does around us because of the years of dedication and the study. Like one time we were having a regenerative agriculture expo and national expo, world expo, and right there at the barn. And somebody, a famous guy, I can't remember his name, asked what's if anybody could say what science was. And it's just observation and measurement, right? And but I had waited a while and nobody answered it. I think it was such a simple answer. Nobody, it's one of those moments where you know the answer, but you don't say anything. So under my breath in the back of the room, after nobody said anything, I just said it, right? And he's like, okay, you won a prize. And I'm like, wait a second, this is my place. I don't need a prize. But the whole point was that in the ability to really study, to focus on what's real. When science is dedicated to understanding something, it's typically trying to understand an organism that they either took the life of or they separated a part of that life so that they could study that part, or they study it after they die. Yeah. Well, it's time we create laboratories in alignment with the rest of what I was saying, studying the life of the soil, where we dedicate our focus to the observation and measurement of life, living life, of living organisms. And I think that's part of what Bigelow is doing that's so interesting here in Maine is, they're actually focusing on studying life. And there are a couple of labs in California that are doing the same thing, really remarkable stuff. So I feel like when we sort of put all of this together, all of these universal laws, principles, Hermetic principles, Rosicrucian teachings, all of these different things from all of these different aspects of wisdom across the timeline of humanity or of creation, even. I feel like this consciousness is tapped into more than I've been personally able to fully absorb. So, like this just infinite and eternal now moment has this ability to transform everything beyond it. And I feel like it always is, but at what rate are we imbuing our truth, right? At what level of dedication are we stewarding this bridge, right? And offering a path for others to enter onto this this platform that we've all created together, that shows a clear path to what life, how life thrives. And in that thriving example, we can then plug in these different regenerative herbs and regenerative fruits and vegetables and medicines, and then see what happens. And at what level and at what speed are we healing when we offer our intention and our, cellular communication and all of water with all of these levels of dedication, all of these things, putting it all into a soup. I think that's what we're doing now, right? We're building this incredible healing place. And the more that we have, the more brothers and sisters that we have jumping into this thing and really dedicating, like you are, like our brothers, more and more of our brothers and sisters are in a long list of ways. Some are with all different types of resources. It's not just money, right? But it can be farming equipment. There's such a long list of resources. Everybody has resources, and celebrating and honoring that and watching it all come together, and watching a brother, whether he's 108 or 58 or 8, coming together to experience that incredible life-changing, but beyond that being gratification, that personal awareness that you came for this project, and you're starting to get this real recognition energetically, and that motion, you're even aware that it's you, that energy is you, and that all of it,
we're the pebble in the pond, and we're just creating more ripples. And the more people that jump in beside us, the bigger those ripples. And pretty soon it's a wave going around the world, my friend.
Absolutely. That is what
we're all way over the 2-hour mark. So we're going to actually let you go. And so you can go pee and all that. And I've been drinking coffee, so I do need to run. Dennis, stick around. Guys, next week we have, I wrote it down, Keisha Wheeler from Catalyst Bio Amendments coming on with Leighton. For those that didn't hear, the OG's Power Hour has been shut down for the time being. And we're going to be focusing more on having regenerative conversations with farmers, etc., from around the world. We're going to try to bring more methodologies, because like I said earlier, it's not the method you're using, it's the end goal that you're getting to. So guys, thanks so much in chat for coming. Andy, you showed up at the very end. You'll have to rewatch the video. So, just how it is. But guys, peace out, and we're going to end the broadcast. So peace out, Dennis. You can go peace to everybody.
Thank you, brother.